Twisha Christian. Today, once again, I am going to talk a little bit about the gold price. And actually, I'm going to let somebody else do the talking. But I think this is very important because this is part of the big picture. And you really need to listen to what they are saying because this is something that was not really discussed ever since really when I got involved in this back in 2011. So this is something that is super huge, super big, and you guys just really need to listen to what is actually taking place. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. This is by Kitco News. $5,000 gold price is possible. Here's how. Okay, now what I told you is that you're going to see a lot of central bank gold buying. That means that when the price of gold goes up, you are going to see the central bank's reserves go up. All right, and not really dealing with the United States because I think that's going to be a totally separate issue. Anyways, here's the video and listen and pay attention.
Joining me today is Peter Schiff, CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. Peter, you have come out saying the moves we have seen this summer in gold just marks the start of a longer bull trend, and it doesn't have to do with the Fed cutting rates. So why is this time different?
Well, first of all, I do think that the Fed cutting rates is part of the reason that gold is going to be rallying. I mean, it is the monetary policies and the mistakes that are being made, not just by the Federal Reserve, but by central banks all around the world, that is driving the narrative for gold, because gold is an alternative to all of these money substitutes that are being created by governments. And the problem is they're creating too many. They're creating a lot of inflation. They're trying to sustain asset bubbles. They're trying to make it possible for governments to keep on spending money they don't have. And so to do that, they need to artificially suppress interest rates. And that destroys the value of these fiat currencies. And that's what drives people to seek out a better alternative like gold.
Well, I remember when we spoke at the beginning of the year, you said investors would start taking gold more seriously. So is that also part of the equation? Are we seeing this happen?
Well, we're seeing the beginnings, but I still think investors are much too complacent. They have too much confidence in central banks. They don't perceive the predicament that we are now in, particularly the United States, and they have no idea just how much value the dollar and other fiat currencies will lose in terms of purchasing power and how much inflation central banks are going to unleash. If they did, they would be buying a lot more gold and the price would be much higher than where it is now.
Peter, you've been obviously a long-term gold bug and bull. We've spoken about gold even possibly going to 5,000 an ounce. Is this the movement for you? Is this where it starts?
Well, I think it started a long time ago. You remember gold started under $300 an ounce back in 2001. And so it got up to 1,900 in 2011. And that was the original, stopping point. We backtracked down to just over 1,000. We never actually got back below 1,000 again. I know there are a lot of people that are waiting for gold to go back below 1,000 so they can buy it. They're never going to buy if that's what they're waiting for. But I do think that this is the beginning of the breakout of the consolidation that we've been in for the last several years. But ultimately, I think gold is going to go quite a bit higher than 5,000. It's hard to tell how much higher, but it will go much higher.
What about silver, Peter? Everyone's waiting for silver to follow suit here.
Well, we might have seen the beginning of that. We saw silver fall to an all-time record low relative to gold. I think you could buy at one point better than 93 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. And that began to change. I think we had 10 days in a row. That streak broke a couple of days ago, but we had 10 days where silver outperformed gold. That hadn't happened for quite some time. And so I think we may have seen the lows in silver in terms of gold. And I think that's very good, not only if you own silver, but if you own gold, because I do think that in a gold bull market, a real gold bull market, we would expect to see silver outperforming. And in fact, we would also expect to see gold stocks outperforming. And that seems to be happening now, too.
All right, so you heard it. You heard it yourself. Now, of course, this is just an opinion based on what the market indicators and what the central banks are doing. So once again, I know it seems like I'm beating beating a dead horse, but you have to understand where the system is going to, right? Many of you guys are invested in fiat currency. That's why it's important to know what is going on with the central banks. And in order to protect your investment, you need to know what is actually taking place. So he did talk about gold going to 5,000, but he thinks even higher. Now, of course, again, this is an opinion, but it's based off the actions of what the banks are doing and what's going on in the markets. And that right now, that investors are not taking gold seriously. So for those who are invested in gold or want to get into gold, this would be the time now, in my opinion. So I want you guys to really take a look at this, and for those of you who are major investors, really take a look at this, because this is going to be very important as far as our investments, right? If you're invested in, say, the Vietnamese dong, well, what is this? What is the Central Bank of Vietnam doing, right? In order to be a part of the system. If they're not buying gold, if they're not doing things to stabilize their economy, how's that gonna affect in any kind of revaluation, right? So this next gold report hopefully will come out in the next couple days, and then we'll be looking for the next couple months, right? Any currency you're invested in, you need to be following where they stand as far as gold, because that's where the system is going to. All right, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have learned something here. Twisted Christian out.